France. I enjoy painting in watercolours, whatever the subject. But today we're going to do a simple landscape together, which is of sky and water. I have an example here to show you, and it's a very loose painting, no pencil work at all. We're going to do it step by step together, so let's paint. We're starting our picture today with 3 different palettes of colour. You can see that I'm mixing the yellow, which is New Gamboge, Winsor Newton, New Gamboge yellow. Also we have a palette of cobalt turquoise, also Winsor Newton, and the darker blue is Winsor blue red shade. You'll notice I have no greens mixed. The greens are going to mix on the paper. And we're painting as usual on Arches 100% cotton watercolour paper at 300 grams in weight. And as you can see, I'm using my mop brush to wet the paper so that it's shiny wet. If we're using yellow, it's always the yellow that I start off with, and I'm dropping it onto the paper because this is a very free landscape picture with no pencil work, and I just want the yellow to get established in the paper, and I'm letting it run the full length of the page, so we don't need to worry about the distribution being all over, because since it's a natural scene, the light isn't always the same everywhere, but the yellow will give us that lovely horizontal effect, which when you're painting sky and water is a good way to start. You can notice I've got a ruler, and this is because I don't want to do any pencil lines, so I'm using my acrylic brush and the ruler to just take out some of the paint to give me a line, a guideline, to help me to put on some colour. And I'm starting with my cobalt turquoise and a little liner brush, just adding some colour. This is a tree line along the edge of a lake, and because the paper is wet, the colour will spread naturally. And when the cobalt turquoise combines with the yellow, we'll get a lovely light spring green, which for this time of year is very appropriate. Just doing little dots all the way along the line that I've created. That's my clock going off in the background. Apologies for that. Technology sometimes can't deal with mechanical things. So on we go. Now I'm adding the reflection, because the trees run along the edge of the lake, and so it's good to do the reflection once you have established your tree line. And I find that to get a symmetrical look, it's better to turn the paper so that I can paint symmetrically and get the dabs of paint in the right place. Because it's very wet, it will blend and give a natural feel. There'll be no definition, just a general impression of leaves and the trees' reflection in the lake. I'm adding a little bit more darker blue now, just to emphasize certain points, and the paper, as you see, is still very shiny wet. So in a moment I'm going to have a little break and leave it to dry, but not dry totally, just so that it's not moving the colour quite so quickly. You can see now that the paper is matte wet. It's not totally dry, and there's still some movement in the paint. But I'm using my Winsor blue red shade just to emphasize the edge of the bank of the lake side, running along to define the line a little bit more. It's a gradual process, and at the same time as I'm doing the actual bank of the river, of the lake, I want to add a little bit of colour in the waterline too, because if you've ever stood by the side of a lake and looked across at the opposite bank, or the side of a river for that matter, you always see the bank reflection in the water. So I've now mixed a little bit of my new Gamboge yellow with the cobalt turquoise, because the paint is drying on the paper, and I've got the chance now to add a little bit more leafy detail to the main trees. So I have the tree right over on the left hand side, and then just to give the composition and to take your eye into the picture, I'm working on another tree which is slightly off centre. It's important that you picture flows, and you don't want it to be too equal both sides, so a lot of the detail is on the left in this image. I'm adding some of the mixed green now along the tree line, just to give, again, increasing more detail as we go. This is a gradual process. You can never rush things with watercolour. As you probably realised, I've speeded up the video so it doesn't take too long a time to show you all the steps, but I haven't cut anything out. This is step-by-step painting. I am trying to explain the procedure as we go, and I hope it's helpful. I've decided to put another tree into the image, this time a little pine tree, and I've darkened my cobalt turquoise by adding a little bit of the Windsor blue to it, and so this will give the tree a different colour and offset as it is beside the paler green tree. It will stand out. And the growing habit of a pine tree is that the boughs always sweep down, so this is the idea that I'm trying to create. And I'm also doing that in the reflected image, as you see. Always it's best to kind of look at the whole thing in a complete entity, and not try to do the image and then all the reflection later, but do the reflections as you go along. This is what I'm trying to achieve, and I keep moving the painting around because I want to make sure that everything is as it should be. We see now that the paper is totally dry and we're ready to do some detail. I'm using Payne's Grey as my darker colour, and I'm starting to put details, just a hint of the branches and the trunk of the tree, as you see, with my liner brush. Because the paper's now dry, the paint isn't going to move very much at all, and I have the opportunity to add this darker tones. I'm starting to put darker tones on the fir tree as well, starting at the top and moving down, adding a little bit of Payne's Grey to my Windsor blue red shade as well. Just taking the colour down and letting it blend with the colour that we already have on the paper. This process has been speeded up so that the video isn't too long and tedious. I hope that you can see it clearly, and I do apologise in advance because in some of these shots my head gets in the way. I'll have to practice more with my video skills, I think, but I hope it doesn't spoil your enjoyment. You can see now that the trees are coming more into focus, and I'm attending to the reflection as well, because as I've said before, it's important that the reflection keeps pace with the image of the object which is creating the reflection. I'll leave you with the process for the moment and comment when necessary. Now I've done the detail on the trees, I'm using the darker colour of blue with a little bit of Payne's grey added to unite the trees together and darken the area along the bank of the lake. And this will help to unify the picture. I could do more detail at this point, but I'm going to leave it now and go to create the watery look, the look of the slightly blurred reflections. And for this I'm using the ruler and the acrylic brush again, and as you see I'm using the ruler at an angle so I can move the colour with the acrylic brush, going over the reflection that I've done so the colour is moved. I hope you can see that. As I've said, my head does get in the way, I do apologise, but I hope it's good enough for you to see that the ripple effect that the brush creates. It's good to space the ripples out a little bit wider at the bottom of the page because the area of the water is closer to the viewer at this stage. And you can do some of the work with the acrylic brush freehand if you feel confident, although the ruler will always give you a straighter edge. Now I've spotted a little bit of the darker colour into the wet area that's been wet by the acrylic brush, and I can move it around to give that shimmery and natural look. The acrylic brush does this very well, and because it's a flat brush it's easier to keep the thing straight, adding a little bit of colour into the further away ripples as well. This is a very calm day, and as you see it could be early morning with the early morning light. Now you see the two images together, the one I showed you at the start of the video and the one we've just completed. And now I've got my palette of permanent rose, which I'm mixing enough colour to show you how we got the rosy glow onto the painting. I'm wetting the paper now. The paint is dry, but it's only been left for a short time, But because the paper is good quality and the paint is good quality, even though I'm brushing the clean water on, it won't move the paint that we've already got on there. It's essential that you cover the whole area and it's shiny wet, which I'm doing with the mop brush. You can see that, the light reflecting on the paper. And now I'm going to take my mop brush, fill it with the permanent rose and drop it onto one end of the picture. It looks a drastic thing to do, but as you will see, the water will carry it right across the painting, and I can move it to get that rosy glow effect. Wiggle it about one side to another. If there are any bits that I've missed, I can go in there and just break the surface tension of the paper to allow the paint to run everywhere. It's quite a fun thing to do, and looks scary, but it isn't really, because it'll all settle down and produce an effect of maybe dawn or dusk. It's optional, you could leave your painting with the yellow morning light, but this is just to show you how we arrive at the finish. And there we are. I hope you enjoyed the video and it's inspired you to paint. Please watch out for more of my step-by-step videos. Your comments are always welcome. Happy painting. Bye for now.